welcome to Fun&gun. If you've been around the channel for a little while, you have probably seen my full review on the new Ruger RXM 9mm pistol. And in that video, I did mention that I had borrowed the gun for that video, and I actually liked it so much, I went ahead and picked one of these up for myself. And I gotta say a big thanks to my buddy Robert for helping me pick this thing up at a screaming good deal. But it's not gonna be really a review, obviously, because I've already done that. This is gonna be more or less going over some of the kind of budget-friendly changes I've done here to just make it that much better, and a few things I've tried, that being shooting it suppressed, and also with the Radiant Ramjet Afterburner kit here, and what I had to do to make that work with this particular gun. So first off, we're gonna go ahead and show you that this gun is unloaded. There is nothing in the magazine, nothing in the chamber there. And that's going to bring us to the first thing we've done here, and that is I went ahead and put a larger magazine release button in there because I'm not really a huge fan of the Gen 3 magazine release button. Would have really liked Ruger and Magpul to have went with the Gen 4 and 5 style magazine release button like I've seen other companies do on their Glock clone pistols, but they decided to go with the Gen 3. So went ahead and picked this guy up off of eBay for around 15 or 16 bucks. I'll go ahead and drop a link to it in the description if you're interested in it. And that just made the button quite a bit larger. Now I will say from the factory, or when I got this in, this did stick quite a bit farther away from the gun. I'll go ahead and insert a picture off of the side there where you can see what I'm talking about. And it still actually sticks quite a long ways off of the gun there. And I may end up doing a little bit more sanding underneath that to bring it a little closer. But it is kind of a pain because there's a little stud in the middle there that keys this to the actual button itself so it doesn't rotate because it only has one screw. So it's kind of where I've decided to stop at because I got tired of messing with it. But you can actually bring it in closer to the gun if that's something you're interested in doing. But functions just fine now, we'll say. Has a little bit of an overhang right there on the opposite side because it is made to be flush in a Glock pistol, and this gun has a little bit more of a radius right there, but not a big deal, still functions just fine, just sticks out a little bit. So that's the first thing we've done here. We're gonna go ahead and pop the slide off here, and we will show you the other thing we've done here. Underneath your crucifix back here on the back of your trigger bar, you have the trigger spring. And I went ahead and put a 6-pound Lone Wolf spring in there, and that actually was something I just had laying around, and I want to see if it made a difference, and it definitely did make a little bit of a difference. And I'll also go ahead and drop a link to that in the description on the eBay. It's like $6 or $7. And a few more things we've done here on the inside is I went ahead and deburred and polished your bird's head here and the backside of the trigger bar itself where it ramps over and actually interacts with your connector here. And then on the side that faces the connector, on the curved part, I did radius the sharp edge off of it. So when it contacts the inner portion of the connector right here, where it's kind of like a little shelf, it would have less drag. And then on top of that, I went in on the inside of the connector and knocked out the burrs on it as well. So all that combined brought the trigger from about 5.6 pounds to around 4.5 or so. We'll go ahead and do a trigger pull once we put the slide back on here. And I actually had footage of me doing the trigger pull prior to that, and I actually lost that footage, but you'll have to believe me that this was like the other gun that I did the review on. It was around 6 pounds. So let's go ahead and slap the slide back on right here, and we'll go ahead and get a 3 pull average here with our wheel trigger gauge here. So let's go ahead and do that real quick here. Okay, that one right there was way different than the other two, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that one out because that means that that was me. Okay, 3 pull average here is 4.11 pounds, so that is pretty good compared to what it was from the factory. It had a good carry pull or style trigger from the factory, but since this gun's mine, I had the stuff laying around. I just felt like I wanted to mess with it a little bit. I figured I'd make it just a little bit better. Now that being said, I have considered putting a Timney trigger in this because they were on sale for a really good price of like 107 bucks shipped. Can't tell you what website that is because YouTube does not like that kind of website being linked to, but I'm sure you can figure that out pretty easily just doing a little bit of Google searching there. And this also has a 9x19 barrel in it that allowed me to shoot it suppressed. Now this is not really a budget friendly option here, more or less just what I had. Now there is barrels for Glock 19 pistols you can pick up for around 60 or 70 bucks. So if you don't want to shoot it suppressed, you don't have to go with something like this. I believe I paid about 150 bucks for that barrel. But that does bring us into shooting it suppressed here and how it worked. Now I will say all the footage of me shooting it suppressed was done with this Remington suppressor ammo. This is a 47 grain round moving at 945 feet per second. And the factory recoil spring was installed in the gun still while shooting it suppressed, just to see if it would run, and it actually ran just fine, as you'll see here in this clip I'm about to cut to right now. So let's go ahead and see if this particular setup will run suppressed with the factory recoil assembly. And as you can see there, with the right ammo, this little gun runs just fine suppressed. Okay, as you can see there, this gun does function just fine with the suppressor hanging off of the threaded barrel with the factory recoil assembly. I went ahead and tried the factory spring just to be sure that it would run, and that is exactly what I went ahead and did with the Radiant kit here as well. So let's go ahead and move this off the side, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So another video, if you've seen it on my channel here, is me trying to fit this Radiant barrel into this gun when I first borrowed the one from my buddy just to see if it would fit. And in that short, I did show you that it did not work with that particular gun, and it also did not work with this gun either. So that was the fault of the comp itself, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the video when I show you exactly what I did to it. But I did get this to run with the gun. As you can see here, the slide functions just fine, and the trigger actually functions because the slide is going back into battery. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you the footage of me trying this originally with the factory recoil spring. And in that footage, you will see I do get some jams, and I actually tried that few times with this spring installed off camera as well, and I got jams every single time I tried to get this to function with it. So let's go ahead and cut. Okay, we went ahead and put the Radiant Ramjet Afterburner into our Ruger here. We're gonna go ahead and use some of this New Republic 115 grain ammo here to see if this actually works. This also has the factory recoil spring in it. And after this, I'll go ahead and back into the table, and I'll show you exactly how I made this comp fit this particular gun. Got a jam. Okay, as you can see there, it is not 100% with the factory recoil spring, but if you did put a lighter spring into this particular gun, it should be just fine. As you can see there, with the factory spring installed, this gun would not run with the comp as you would expect, because most of the time you do have to change the springs to make them work with the comps, which a lot of times you do with the suppressor as well. But I did have the gun run just fine with the suppressor with that barrel. So now that you have seen that it does work, let's go ahead and get into what I did to make it work. We're gonna go ahead and start off by taking the comp off here, and we'll go ahead and show you what I had to do to the comp itself to get it to clear the front of the slide. And that is, I had to cut out a lot of material right here at the top of the comp itself on the back side to get it to clear the two little points on the front of the slide right there. Because without that being cleared out, the slide was resting up against that and would not let the action cycle on the gun. And as you can see there in the picture off to the side, there is two little shiny spots where it is still tapping the slide just a little bit, and I probably need to take a little bit more off, but really do not want to ruin the comp here for the kit, because that kit was not cheap and it works just fine in my Zev without having to do anything to it. So probably not going to mess with it anymore, because it does cycle on this gun. If I want to leave it on, it'll be just fine. So let's go ahead and pop the slide off again, and we'll show you what it's got in it that ended up making it cycle just fine. And it now has my DPMS 3-stage recoil system in it, and it also has a shock buffer in it from, can't think of the company off the top of my head, but has a shock buffer in there. It's not required. I just run it with this kit because it makes it quieter when you're shooting it suppressed. Strike Industries, that's who makes that. So I did install this kit, and that is when the gun started running just fine. And another thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about the trigger, I did actually put a lighter spring underneath the safety plunger right here that lightened up the trigger take up just a little bit, and I also polished the top of the head of the plunger a little bit. Didn't make a huge difference because it was already pretty smooth, but I just went ahead and did it because I had the stuff out to do it. So that's something else I was thinking about when I had to slide off. But as you'll see here in the next scene here of me shooting the gun with the comp on it with this in it, it actually runs just fine. Okay, had some rounds left, so I went in and I grabbed my DPM 3-stage recoil system that I usually use with the Radiant comp here, and I figured I'd give it a fair chance to see if we can get it to run at least some rounds without jamming. So let's go ahead and see how it does. And as you can see there with the right recoil spring, it will run properly. So let's head back into the table and talk about this a little bit more. Okay, now that you know that the Radiant kit works in the Ruger RXM, as long as you put the right spring in it, and I will say that you may not have to do the cutting on the back side of the comp. I have seen multiple people and have talked to multiple people in the comments on my original short saying that they just dropped it in and it ran just fine. But my particular comp did not work with my gun, so it is possible that you may have to modify it to work. Now, I guess this part of the video is going to be me showing this being shot in slow motion with and without the comp, and it's going to more or less show you, is it worth spending as much on the comp and barrel pretty much as the gun itself. So let's go ahead and head to the footage of it shooting in slow motion, and we'll let you be the judge of that. It is a little bit hard to see the results with it playing in slow motion right here. I am having a little bit of trouble getting the slow motion to run smoothly and still be slow at the same time. That's something I'm going to work on in the future, but if you wait to the end of the full test here, I will show the results in a freeze frame. And as you can see there by these freeze frames, this Radiant kit definitely works quite well in the Ruger RMX and actually cuts the muzzle rise roughly in half. So let's go ahead and head back to the table and talk about this a little bit more. Okay, as you can see there, the Radiant Ramjet Afterburner kit definitely does exactly what it is intended to do, but I'm going to leave it up to you to justify, is it worth doubling the cost of what you have in the gun to put a barrel and a comp on it, because it is basically the exact same price as the gun like I mentioned earlier. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and say no, I probably would not have ran out and bought the kit specifically for this gun. That is not to say the gun's not worth putting the kit into, but it'd have been hard for me to justify a barrel and a comp that costs as much as the gun and double my price or my initial investment into the gun. But since I already had it laying around for my Zev build, I figured it'd be cool to make it work with this gun, and as you can see there, it works quite well. So other than that, this video was just kind of meant to be kind of a fun video showing you some of the cheap things you can do to one of these guns just to make it a little bit better, and some of the cool stuff you can do for or with it on a budget, more or less. Being more or less, if you pick up a budget barrel, like I said then before, this is not really a budget barrel, it's just what I had, but works as a good suppressor host. And if you want to comp it, you can do that as well. And I guess if you wanted to pick up a cheap eBay comp, you could also give that a go if you have the threaded barrel and kind of keep it more on the budget friendly side of things. But that's really all I had for you today. Just a fun video showing you a few things you can do with your Ruger RMX. Okay, if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you're looking for more Fun and Gun right now, you can click one of the 2 recommended videos there. If you're looking for more Fun and Gun later, you can go ahead and click that there subscribe button. I sure would appreciate it. And if you're finding me from Facebook, go ahead and click that open app button at the top to make all that a lot easier, and I'll see you next time.